record to this computer. Hold on a second. I love technology. There we go. Boom. Cool. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to practice something because I got a new talk. I just changed it, in fact, on the neurobiology of NLP and hypnosis. That's what I'm going to be doing today. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, for those on Facebook, hi. I'm also recording this on my Zoom. If you're on my Zoom list, it's under the NFN. Hey, Anthony. Hey, Tracy. Hey, Cynthia. If you like this, click like and share. If you don't, keep it to yourself. Same for the people watching there. So what we're going to do, and Beth from Indiana, hey. So today we're going to talk about the biology of hypnosis and NLP. I just did this talk at the National Guild, but I updated it. I changed it because I got some new information, did some new research. So it's going to really be cool. And I don't know how to share it on the PowerPoint I'm doing on Facebook. And also get you a reason to sign up for my email list so you could become in this. And eventually this will be a closed group. So again, if you want to contact me, you guys, you're on my Facebook page. Make sure you like it. I'm also Dr. Will at Real NLP on Twitter. On Instagram, it's just Dr. Will Horton. And I also have a couple websites, fastaddictionrecovery.com and also aasolved.com. But today I want to talk about the biology of it, because we've had old thoughts on hypnosis and NLP. Number one is the brain was hardwired and can't change. Up to about 25 years ago, that was standard, especially if you had a traumatic brain injury, any kind of brain thing, a stroke, a TAI, something like that. That's it. You're screwed. Your brain's never going to change. Now we know that's not true. That's the whole science of neuroplasticity, and it's always growing. So it's kind of interesting. So it's changing, right? But it's also changing in other areas. And also for years, they thought there's really no science to like what hypnosis or NLP or trance state does. Now that's starting to open up. And why was there always this bias against it? Money, the powers that be, especially the pharmacology industry. There's more money in giving you a drug and telling you, get 6 hypnosis sessions and we can relieve your stress without putting your butt on antidepressants or anxieties forever. Hey, Kathy. Again, if you like this, click like and share, leave a comment. So we have that. And there's also and one way I say you always pick it up, especially against hypnosis, is the hidden agenda that comes up. Because I was reading an article, recent, was like within a year, but they kept stressing that this is for highly suggestible people. This is really good for highly suggestible people. And if you think about the subconscious text there, then it's saying like, because most people are going to say, I'm not suggestible, I'm whatever, right? So it's like basically downplaying against it, right? So anyway, so let's jump in, right? And what's happened now is a lot of the old sayings have proven true, because the mind doesn't know the difference between a real or vividly imagined event. Maxwell Maltz said that. I think he got it from someone else, maybe Wallace Wattles or somebody. But now we know with imaging studies, it's absolutely true. If we wire you up, we put you in a brain thing or a CAT scan or an MRI, and you eat whatever you like, let's say chocolate cake, in my case a Cinnabon, certain parts of my mind are going to light up. If I vividly imagine it, the same parts of my brain lights up. If I go into trance and it's augmented with a trance state and you vividly imagine it, there's almost no difference between the real or the vividly imagined event. So it begins to show what we've said in hypnosis and NLP for forever is true. And then in NLP, we're the people that introduced the concept of rapport, mirroring and matching. And we just knew that it worked. There were some people that make you feel comfortable, it makes people like you, yada, yada. I always said it makes people feel safe, because throughout history, you're constantly searching for your tribe, your group, your network. And if I present a mirror image to you of yourself, you're going to say, I can trust this guy somewhat. I can let down my guard, right? And then in the late 90s, they actually discovered mirror neurons. If we were talking and we're in close proximity and there's an absence of conflict, and, I brush my hair back, the same neurons fire in your head like you're brushing your hair back, right? just a trace amount, because it's how your brain's making sense out of the world. But what they found was if we're in close proximity and, you know, I'm mirroring you and I make a movement, and pretty soon you make a movement, I'm presenting a mirror image to your brain. Pretty soon our brains actually go into sync to the point as I'm just deciding to make a motion, your brain's following, even though it hasn't happened yet. Fascinating stuff, right? So new technologies revealing old secrets all the time. You know, we talked about, it goes back to the 60s and 70s, the basketball study, where we took some people and, you know, we had broke them up into groups. One group, they got to shoot baskets, basketball study, shoot baskets for 30 minutes a day. The second group, practice shooting the baskets once, then vividly imagine it for 30 minutes a day. And the third group shot baskets, never practiced. And of course, on the follow-up, I think it was a week study, a week later, of course, the group that was shooting was 30, whatever it was, 30-something% improved. The group that imagined it was in the 20s, right? And of course, the group that didn't do anything, there was no change. Well, they updated this with a piano study. And now, because they're actually wiring the brain, and they brought someone in and taught them like exercises, one-hand piano exercises, and they knew what part of the brains were firing up. So that was the exercise. So they had the group that actually would physically practice, and they would see it in their mind, how their brain is forming new neural pathways. Fascinating. Then they had the group learn it and then vividly imagine it. And I think this was like supposedly a couple hours a day, right? And then of course, one group learned it, never practiced. And again, on a follow-up, the people that practiced, of course, their skills went up, whatever it was, you know, they could play very well. And the people that vividly imagined it, skills went up almost as much, much like the basketball study, right? And of course, the group that did nothing, it didn't change. So now we know it's actually in the brain. And they found the people that could duplicate the best in their brains of doing it mentally, the exercise, they got better at it whether they did it or not. And it kind of goes, there was one other little study where they took some college kids and they got them to work on strength, you know, squeezing to build up their strength. And they would do it, you know, they would practice every day. And then they took a group and, you know, they did it so they could feel it. And then they would practice mentally, right? And of course, and then the control group that did nothing. Of course, the group that squeezed, strength went up, whatever it was, 30, 40%. The group that just practiced mentally, their strength and their muscles went up 20-something%, right? Of course, not as much as the actual physical exercise, but it went up even more, right? So if you think about this, right, the brain is actually encoding it. But more than that, it's sending the neural pathways to the body to create new muscle, to grow muscle, right? It's kind of like, and then the thought would be, and I'd love to see a study, the difference between somebody that like, you know, they're just lifting weights, they're not paying attention, and the person that like is Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, you know, you put your mind in your muscle and your muscle in your mind. You're totally focused, you're pumping, right? You're going to get exponential growth. It's why you see the people that they work out smarter, right? They work out smarter. So anyway, learning changes the brain, and it also changes the body. That's what's so fascinating. Changes the body, right? And so now we're going to talk about neurochemicals and how it relates to hypnosis and NLP. And I use the analogy of dose. Actually, it'd be dose man would cover the neurochemicals. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and the endorphins are the main one. And you have melatonin, acetylcholine, and norepinephrine. Anyway, sounds complicated. It's not that bad. Dopamine is the activating neurochemical. When you get excited, things start happening. Your brain kicks out dopamine. And it also activates pleasure, right? So when you're in the pleasure mode, your brain is kicking up dopamine. This is really important for addicts. You know, as you all know, that's my clinical specialty, right? So dopamine interacts with glutamate and a few other things. That's a reward pleasure center, but it gets you going. It's motivating, right? When you get, you know, when you get hungry, you get dopamine's released because you got to sedate this, right? So dopamine gets you moving, right? Gets you moving. And then we have oxytocin. It's the love hormone, as some people would say, but it's twofold. People forget. It can increase good memories and bonding and things like that, but it can also increase bad memories and things like that. But yes, it's the bonding thing, like when a childbirth is the flood of oxytocin in the mother's and the baby's body. So they bond. Also, men, if they hold their baby, they bond. It's a social bonding. It's not just a thing about love. It's social bonding. It's secreted when you're part of a group, when you're in a group that makes you feel comfortable, whatever that group is, right? Oxytocin is needed for empathy, to have empathy with other people. If you have high oxytocin, you have high empathy. If you have no oxytocin, you're a sociopath, the people that have absolutely no empathy. You know, as I drink from my Darth Vader mug, makes you wonder about me. It makes you feel comfortable. That's the other thing. When dopamine's or when oxytocin's there, you feel comfortable. Now, alcohol and drugs mimic the effects of oxytocin. That's the thing you always say, like, you know, I love you, bro, after guys had a few drinks, or, you know, the girls are bonding. And then the next day you're like, why was I saying that? I don't even like these people. Where your brain was searching and it was similar, right? But oxytocin is also the thing for social movements. You want to be a part of something bigger than yourself. In one way, that's what being a parent is. You know, last week I was at the National Guild of Hypnotists, just a few days ago, National Guild of Hypnotists convention. Next week, or I leave tomorrow, for another Hypno Thoughts convention. You know, it's why you're there. You're part of a group. You're part of a herd. Feels wonderful, right? The next is serotonin, right? It's the feeling of well-being and happiness in a way, but it has a lot of complex functions, right? Like thinking, it does tie into learning, memory, all kinds of psychological processes. When it's low, you're lethargic, you can't get going, right? So it's related to mood, happiness, anxiety. Sunlight produces melatonin or serotonin, right? So when it kicks in, you feel good. That's why, you know, if you live in a place with a lot of clouds and rain and you go to a sunny area, you feel better. You feel better on a sunny day. It has to do with how your brain's producing serotonin, right? And of course, the big breakthrough in the 60s, 70s was selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, you know, antidepressant, things like that, right? Because it kept serotonin in your brain. So that's serotonin. And then you have your endorphins. You know, it used to be thought of, you know, endorphins were like your adrenaline junkies, you know, but it gives you a boost. It's kind of like the runner's high, you know, physical activity kicks it in, sex kicks it in, you know, but it's also released when addiction kicks in. I always relate a lot of things to addiction, right? You feel good, man. It makes you feel, I would say, think of it, it's like a superhero chemical. You know, it makes you want to do something greater than yourself, right? When you look at the superheroes, you know, Batman, Superman, all the Marvel things, they're doing something for others. They're not just doing it for themselves. That releases endorphins. First responders, you know, they're doing something for a big, you know, they're running into the fire. They're jumping out of the squad car into the gunfire, whatever it happens to be. So it's that like superhero effects. They're always balancing these, you know. Also a little bit, by the way, endorphins kick in after a hypnosis or meditation session or deep prayer session, because as your brain comes up, you feel good, right? You get this, and that's, you know, that's a lot of these brain chemicals maybe for the first time becoming good for you, you know, equal. And then we have the three others, melatonin, acetylcholine, and norepinephrine. Melatonin regulates the sleep cycle and relaxation. Acetylcholine and norepinephrine regulate muscle control, and it's another one ties into dopamine to get you moving. But melatonin slows down those up neurotransmitters. So when you walk into a dark room and you start getting droopy and drowsy, your muscles slow down. This slows down, right? Things like that, right? Because it's slowing down your up neurotransmitters. So here's what happens, like when light dims and things get your brain begin to change, and it turns serotonin into melatonin. It goes in, changes a couple chemical or something with, I'm not a chemist, changes serotonin into melatonin. They're close. And you get droopy and drowsy, and this is based in your DNA, and it can happen fast. The reason? It's survival. When you go to sleep, your body rejuvenates, things like that. But as you're dropping, it opens up your subconscious mind. Brain wave patterns shift and change, and it opens it up. Stories work better in this state, when you're in this droopy, drowsy state. And this is in your DNA because for most of millennia, millions of years, stories and learnings were passed on by stories. I mean, your learnings were passed on by story. There was no written words, right? So there was a storyteller, and you'd be relaxed at the end of the day. There'd be a campfire, or they'd have a fire. Once we had fire, and then they would tell the story of like how to catch the bison, what berries will kill you, what berries are fine, right? So that's in your DNA. If you could not do this, your gene pool pretty much died out, right? And now it's translated into movies and TV. You know, when you walk into a movie theater, it's dark, right? And then when the movies start, you're already in a slightly altered state, and you feel a little droopy, drowsy. How many times do you see someone fall asleep at a movie, right? And that's my thing about some of the new movie theaters with the big recliners. I'm like, and you hear people snoring. You know, I forget what movie I was watching. It was a big action movie, and the person next to me fell asleep and was snoring. You know, it's like, well, their brain kicked in. It was making the melatonin. It's got time to sleep. They went to sleep, right? And eventually you drop into delta. Now it reverses when light hits the eyes. It turns melatonin into serotonin, and it wakes you up. And then it also kicks in norepinephrine and dopamine to get you up and to get you moving. So when you first wake up, you have to come to your senses. It's kind of like if you ever slept so deep, you wake up and think, oh my God, you know, I missed the school bus. You realize it's Sunday. And then you remember, you know, you're 50 years old. But when for a moment, you couldn't remember who you are. It's an interesting time, right? And disassociation is integral to trance states. I'm going to talk more about this in a couple weeks, right? And we have this in what we call the HOT model of NLP. I'm going to do a whole talk on that. But there's this magic moment that happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you're first waking up and coming to your senses, you know, when you're first getting up. Now, most of us work on autopilot. When this happens, you kick into autopilot. You know, maybe you turn off the alarm. How many people, they grab their cell phone, check their messages, their Facebook, whatever, right? And maybe as they're staggering to the bathroom, right? Then maybe they stagger down the hallway to get a cup of coffee as you're coming to your senses, right? But this is a magic time because your brain is pretty much resetting for the day, right? You have two magic moments when you wake up, and I'll talk about when you're going to sleep. But this melatonin is turning into serotonin and dopamine, and you're getting going. And you search for who you are, you know, and then you'll remember, oh, what I got to do today. Oh, this is going on. That's going. You're re-identifying with yourself, right? And you need to be reborn every morning. You are. When you first wake up, you're new, right? But most of us, when we do this, we wake up as we're struggling to get to the coffee. We reach back into the past, think about all this crap from our past, put it in today and into the future. Okay, now I feel like me. After you check your phone, yes, I'm good and pissed off. You know, you turn on the news, that gets you cranked. And you have a tendency, you ever know sometimes you'll watch something you know that will piss you off. Maybe it's a certain news thing, or read something, right? Check your Facebook, and you kind of search out stories that get you going. Yeah, you know, because anger, you know, negative states are addictive, right? So you're not only your past, you know, but you can let go of it, you know, and you don't have to let it control your mental energy. And it's also, so this happens when you're waking up because you're coming out of that, you know, melatonin-induced sleep. And as you come up, you can, I'll show you how to reprogram yourself easily in a moment. And you can also do it when you're going to sleep because the opposites happen. The serotonin's being turned into dopamine, your brain shutting down or serotonin's being turned into melatonin, and your brain is shutting down the dopamine and the norepinephrine, acetylcholine, and you're going into that. So your brain is like, okay, basically, what am I going to think about tonight? For years, it was taught just by people that kind of knew. One of the best things you can do is watch something funny before you go to sleep, or something that makes you laugh for 10 or 20 minutes. You know, a few years ago, there was the guy that got diagnosed with cancer, the doctor, or the person, Norman Cousins. So he decided to do was not do the medical treatment. He was just watching comedies. Back then it was, you know, the Marx Brothers, Three Stooges, the old comics, right? And when they did the follow-up, his cancer was gone. Well, he was, you know, laughter, you know, releases the good positive neurotransmitters, as I would say, as he was going to sleep. And if it's something that makes you laugh, no matter what it is, will make you feel better. But how many of us, though, we kind of get trained, you know, remember my dad thinks, you know, you watch the news, then you turn the news off and you go to bed. And half the time you're yelling at the TV. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Of course, the news is violence, death, fear. So you go to sleep in a fear state, right? So you don't get a good night's sleep. But if you go to watch something funny, no matter what it is, you will sleep better. So when you're going to sleep at night, your brain's going from serotonin to melatonin, dropping out the up regulators. And then when you're waking up, it's going from melatonin to serotonin, releasing the up regulators, you know. And both of those times is a perfect time to begin to program your mind a little bit, right? And one of the ways you can do it, the easiest way is with questions, because your brain's main job is to keep you alive. It's to keep your butt alive. That is its job, right? And you have this reticular activating system, part of your brain that of all the things going on in the world, it'll say, pay attention to this. Right now, pay attention to the cell phone with the Facebook Live, my computer with the Zoom. You know, if I really look, oh, I can look through the window, I can see the tree outside, you know, I can hear the air conditioner out there, whatever it is. But my brain's scanning that out because it's only telling me what's important. You know, I overuse it, but it's like if you ever wanted a new car and you don't know what kind, and then you say, I want this BMW or this or that, you'll see that car everywhere. The day before, you wouldn't notice it. You told your brain, your reticular activating system, this is important to me. And it will go and find it, right? When it wasn't important to you, it wouldn't find it. It's the same when you ask it a question. It starts reprogramming your reticular activating system. Goes that part of your brain, okay, we got the order to solve this problem, to answer this question. Great, right? So and your brain's job is to answer it, right? So if you ask yourself questions when you're first getting up, like, how can I enjoy the day today? What can I do to be a better person? How can I reinvent myself today? How can I make more, whatever you're working on, how can I make more money? How can I easily lose weight? If you ask yourself 3 or 4 questions when you're waking up in the morning, it sets your brain, and you just kind of let go of it. Your brain will start to answer those questions. It's the same when you're going to sleep at night. If you can remember to ask yourself 3 or 4 questions, and when you're dropping off to sleep, your brain will search for that while you're in sleep mode, right? And if you focus more on intentions rather than goals, it works even better, it seems, right? Like, you know, what is the intention of losing weight? To feel better, to have more energy. If you focus on that, your brain will go and find all kinds of ways. So the big one on that one, you may find yourself having more energy and feeling better even before you drop all the weight. So it becomes this circle, right? And then force yourself during the day when you're doing it in the morning to do new things, to do one thing different, add a different thing to your routine, right? Meditate for 3 minutes in the morning, do a gratitude list. Before you drink your coffee, have a green drink, you know, whatever it is, something to change up the routine. That also tells your subconscious mind you're serious, and you begin to make different changes. This is what's so important, right? So if you want more information, keep in touch. Let me know what's going on. Those just on the Facebook Live, shoot a thing. I'll post the PowerPoint next week because I'm going to be using it this weekend at a talk, and it's a little bit more detailed. But I just wanted to practice it and have some fun. So again, this is the NFNLP forum. And so for everybody on the Zoom call, hey, hope everybody's going well. For the Facebook Live, it was fun. And so I'll leave this up for a little while. And then, well, that's it. I'll be seeing some people in Las Vegas, other people not so much. So everyone have a great day, and I shall talk to everyone soon. I'm going to talk a little bit more on the on my NFNLP forum group. I'll talk to everybody later. Thank you. Okay, cool. So for my group, I just finished the Facebook Live. One of the things we're doing in the Master Trainer group, and I'm going to do on the NLP forum group, is talk about how to leverage what you're already doing. You know, if you're going to be doing like a Zoom for something like this, sometimes maybe do a Facebook Live, get the word out. That's what I did now. You know, if you're doing a Facebook Live, if you can, make sure you, if possible, record it so you can download it. There's a way to download it so you can use it for your own thing. You know, some people do Facebook Lives, leave them up for a while, download it, and then delete it off Facebook, right? Or some people put it on Facebook Live on their free group, like I just did this on my group, and then they leave it up for a few days, then it only goes to the private paid member area or the private area, like the NFNLP Master Trainers group is a closed group. It's not open. And we're going to create some new groups as we keep moving forward. So that's it for this week. No one, you know, there were no real questions. I apologize for some of the glitches on getting started, but of course I tried to start it right in the middle of the big conference, a couple weeks, but it'll be every Wednesday at noon right here on Zoom, on this Zoom station. Just click in. Not all will be done Facebook Live. Some will be. So I'll see you all soon.